What's going on, everyone? So Victor Wembanyama is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, this guy put up 30 points, 13 rebounds, 6 blocks, and nearly single-handedly brought the San Antonio Spurs back down 18 in the fourth quarter. He was 11 of 21 from the field, 4 of 5 from 3, had 3 steals to go along with his 6 blocks. 5 turnovers isn't great, but he's young, he's learning, and he did foul out, which is a bit unfortunate, right? But again, he went up against Anthony Davis, and Anthony Davis was a monster this game. 37 points, 10 rebounds, 1 assist. He was 13 of 23 from the field, 2 of 3 from 3, 4 steals, right? Only 2 turnovers. I mean, you're talking about one of 3 of the best centers in the entire league, right? It's Jokic, Embiid, and Anthony Davis. And you saw Victor Wembanyama show up and play a spectacular game, going in many ways blow for blow with Anthony Davis. And Anthony Davis, don't get me wrong, was an absolute beast. And Anthony Davis even got that steal that just completely sealed the game for the Lakers, right? If it wasn't for that steal, Victor Wembanyama very well might have brought the San Antonio Spurs back. And look, San Antonio is a dumpster fire right now. Right, they're just not a very good basketball team. They have no real facilitator. That's something that they desperately need to address, whether it's in the draft or it's via trade or free agency or whatever. Right, they need to get somebody that can get Victor Wembanyama the basketball. But so far this year, in his rookie year, you got to keep in mind he's just a rookie, right? He's giving you 18.8 points per game. He's averaging 3 blocks per game, 2.8 to be exact. 1.2 steals, 2.6 assists, 10.6 rebounds, 8 defensive, 2.4 offensive. He's shooting 80% from the free throw line, which is very good. He's shooting 51.5% from 2-point range, and he's shooting a rough 25% from 3, but he does have his games like today, yesterday, where he can go 4 or 5 from 3-point range. And he should only improve and get better. I mean, he is a kid, literally. He's 19 years old. I have my concerns about just his physicality with his size and length, right? He's definitely got to start getting his grown man body and develop into that. If he can stay healthy, he's definitely going to be a force. I don't know if he's going to be the greatest player ever type of guy. But I mean, he may end up being the best defensive player ever. Right? Like this guy, I wouldn't be surprised if in like 2 or 3 years, this guy is literally like the perennial defensive player of the year. I mean, this guy, he still doesn't have that discipline yet, right? Once he gets that timing down and that discipline of an NBA player, I mean, who knows how many blocks this kid's going to average. I mean, again, he's averaging almost 3 blocks per game in his rookie year. Once he develops that understanding of the game and that timing of players and, how the pacing works and all that stuff, like once he figures that out, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if this dude has a season where he averages 5 or 6 blocks a game. Like literally, that's ridiculous to even fathom that he'd be able to do that. But I really hope that San Antonio doesn't mess around and starts to put the right pieces around this kid, right? Because, look, I don't see anybody on San Antonio personally, and this is just my opinion. If you're a San Antonio Spurs fan, let me know down in the comments if you feel otherwise. I don't see anybody else that I look at, though, on San Antonio and go, yeah, that's the other guy. Like, I like some of the other players on San Antonio, right? Like, I think Sohan could be a great role player, could be a great guy, just hustle, energy guy, maybe off the bench or something like that. Keldon Johnson, I think, could be just, a solid player, contributor. Same thing with Vessel, right? Like, I think he could be another solid contributor. I like Zach Collins as, that other backup big. Like, I like some of these guys, but I don't think any of these guys are that's the guy that is your running mate with Victor Wembanyama. I think you at some point need to trade a Johnson or a Vassell and go get a real second running mate. You put a package of whatever. Maybe you even put both together and you go get them. I'm not saying that, Keldon Johnson is some bum or anything like that. He's solid, 6'5". It's fourth year. He's giving you like 17, 6 and 5, right? Something like that, or 17, 6 and 4. So he's solid, but he's not really like the playmaker, point forward that you really want, right? He would be a nice like third complementary piece. Same thing with Vassell, right? Him, 3-year pro, 23. He's averaging, I believe, 17 a game as well. He's giving you like 3 and 3. But again, that's a guy, in my opinion, that is a third, maybe fourth guy on a real contending team. There's so many times where Victor Wembanyama is not even like a part of the offense, and he is far and away your best player at 19 years old. There are times where they literally Victor will be wide open or have established position or whatever, and they don't even like notice him. They desperately need a playmaker. They need somebody to kind of put things together. And they definitely need that other running mate, right? Now, that doesn't mean that they have to get that person today, right? Maybe you're finding that guy in the draft this year. San Antonio is probably going to be the second or third worst team in the league, and they're going to be in for one of the top draft picks in this year's draft. So maybe you can go and draft that guard or that running mate of the future, right? If you get the number 1 pick, maybe you could get somebody like who's the kid from USC, Isaiah Collier, right? He's like the 6'5" guard, point guard, shooting guard combo. Maybe he's the guy that you go and get. I don't hate the idea of like next season, because you're gonna have a bunch of money and you're gonna need to kind of start steering the ship in the direction for contention and like start getting the pieces together. I wouldn't hate if you kind of did a similar route to like what the Houston Rockets did. I don't like what Houston did because I felt like they overpaid for most of their guys, like Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks and Jeff Green and stuff like that. Like, I love that they went and got those like vets to add to the young guys. One, I don't think the Spurs will be there next year to where like they're fighting for a playoff seed. Maybe, never know. But I also don't think that they need to overpay guys. I think you go and like look at like, can you convince like Chris Paul, right? Like, he might want a contract, right? He might want to go somewhere to go get a ring. But if he's like kind of like, hey, like, somebody would give me a bag, like, I'll take the bag. Like, let's say you drafted like Isaiah Collier, right? And you go maybe you can go and sign another like young point guard or something, and have like Chris Paul just kind of come in like a mentor role, right? And start getting Victor involved more, and have that guy, that veteran leader that can come in, kind of train some of these young guys on how to like get Victor the ball, how to operate and run, right? And just get some of these like smarter, higher IQ point guard guys. And I don't want to see Spurs overpay for several years, but like Chris Paul, can you get him for like a 1 year, like, let's say he's looking at nothing but like vet minimums or like taxpayer money, right? Can you convince him to come for like $15 million? Like, hey, you're only going to get $5 million anywhere else. Tell you what, we'll give you a 1 year, like $15 or maybe $18 million a year deal, right? Where it's like, hey, we're just going to pay you one big time, give you some cash to kind of help be a mentor for some of our young guys. Maybe you can even get, like a Johnson or a Vassell to kind of become a better playmaker, right? Look at like what he did with like Shea. And look at what he did with like Dennis Schroeder and stuff like that. Like, just really kind of, when Chris Paul had Dennis Schroeder was 6th man of the year type Dennis Schroeder, right? He was there neck and neck with Montrezl Harrell, right? And then, you look at Shea and it's like, Chris Paul just kind of molded and crafted Shea, and now Shea is just ridiculous. I mean, part of that is just Shea was an excellent player, but I mean, he's talked about how much he's helped and impacted because of Chris Paul, and Chris Paul talked highly about Shea and how much they used to work together and stuff. So maybe Chris Paul could be a guy. It's just a thought that popped into my head, right? Just going and kind of getting some of these veteran guys to kind of not necessarily try to go win a bunch of games, but more so just kind of get your guys in a rhythm, in a flow, right? To kind of get them better understood on like, and help maybe with carve out specific roles for guys. But you got to do something, right? Because Victor, I mean, this dude is clearly, he's going to be a generational talent. This guy's going to be something special. This guy's going to be, bare minimum, he's going to be the best defense player in the league. Like, if worst case scenario, he's a better Rudy Gobert, right? Like, that's still a very good player. Like, Rudy Gobert is not a top, 10 player or anything like that by any stretch. But, like, imagine if Rudy Gobert could, like, handle the basketball and shoot threes, right? Like, at a reasonable clip. Right? And I'm saying, like, absolute, like, worst case. I think Victor Wembanyama is going to be much better than that. So, don't take that as like an insult, but I'm saying, like, let's say you told me the floor, the absolute floor for Victor Wembanyama was like Rudy Gobert mixed with like a bit of like a Anthony Davis, right? Like, I would be okay with it, right? Where he's just like the best defensive player in the league and can knock down mid-ranges, use his size and length to go get buckets in the post, and knock down the occasional three. Or like Karl Anthony Towns mixed, like, let's say you could mix Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, right? Like, Karl Anthony Towns isn't a top 10 player. He's probably not even a top 20 player. But if Karl Anthony Towns had Rudy Gobert's defense, that would be an excellent player, right? Like, that's why the Timberwolves went and got Rudy Gobert, because they needed his type of defense. And now Minnesota's the best team in the West thus far, right? So if he could kind of be a blend of that, where like he has like kind of that offensive repertoire that Karl Anthony Towns has, where he can knock down the three ball, he can, shoot it from pretty much anywhere, but he could also get in the post and score a little bit. And then you just have him just be a dominant defensive force like Rudy Gobert could be. I think that would be a really good like floor, right? I mean, I don't know if that would be the best player ever, but I think that would be an excellent player. So I don't know. I really like what I'm seeing from Victor. And he's not afraid of the moment. He's not afraid of these other guys, right? He has these big games against, some of these better centers, and he just seems to show up. He seems to just be right there. He plays like a guy that's like, hey, you know what? Like, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Like, hey, yeah, man, you slammed all over me. Good stuff. Like, Anthony Davis had like a monster dunk on him, and he came right back and gave AD one. I love that stuff. I love seeing that. I love seeing the competitiveness. So I don't know. I'm rooting for the kid, and San Antonio. I trust that they're gonna. I mean, they're a very decorated organization, right? And so they're going to figure it out, right? They're gonna put together whatever they need to put together to eventually create this new wave, right? Maybe a new dynasty even. But I personally just don't see, I just don't think San Antonio has that other guy right now. I just don't. Hey, you never know. Maybe one of these guys does develop into that. But to me, I think you have Victor Wembanyama and a bunch of really good role players, or potentially good role players, right? I think you have several guys that could be, like, again, Johnson and Vessel, I think both could be excellent third or fourth options. But I think if you're trying to win an NBA championship, I think that neither of those guys are your number one or number two options, right? I think if they're your second best player, I think you're going to be this San Antonio, right? But I think if you could go get another guy, right? We'll see who becomes available at some point, or maybe, again, like I said, maybe you draft that guy, right? If you can find that, then I think at some point you'll be a contender and you'll be really good. But Anyway, again, how you feel, whatever your thoughts are. I'd love to hear it, so let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.